Well, you're part of Secret Society Blanket. I'm a caterpillar. Ain't this just a great start to this? Oh, well, hello.
Yeah.
Hello, podcast listeners and anime fans. This is Torrin.
And this is Secret Society member A.
Yeah, and those who are not watching the video are confused at what's going on.
Yes, I have a blanket on.
So, yeah, Andrew has become part of the Secret Society Blanket, and you might be able to hear rustling in my microphone because I am a caterpillar.
He's put on a full body. What's the word? I can't think this morning.
It's a sleeping bag.
It's
a mummy bag, more just like mummy style. And if you've watched the show and saw the magazine part where they talked about sleeping bags, this is the style that all of them use. And
I was amazed you had the exact style.
Well, I was a Boy Scout, so
yeah, but I mean, like the colors are the same even.
Are two of them are red. So the main two, characters have red, and then I'm trying to remember the other two. I thought it was yellow, and was the other one blue? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was yellow and blue.
I don't know. Mine's blue for those who are not watching the video. I had a red one too. Funny enough.
Podcast.
Yeah, I had a red one too because I actually had a 0 degree. This is the 30 degree. I'm gonna have my arm out because drink and stuff. This is the 30 degree. I had a 0 degree that was red. But anyway, with all that aside, this is all relevant because this is all camping stuff and references to Yuru Camp, aka Laid Back Camp, which is what we're covering today. I'm sorry for all the rustling in the microphone. At some point, this will probably end up halfway off and not make as much noise.
Because nobody can have their arms, and also it will slowly get warmer.
It will get
over the course of this hour.
It'll get very warm. Maybe not so much because this one's so old that I have not stored it properly. You can see it's all compressed. Anyway, with that aside, like I said, we're covering Yuru Camp. This should be a fun, relaxing little conversation today. There's not much to spoil in this, but there is a spoiler alert because whatever. Start us off, won't you, Andrew? What do you think of Yuru Camp?
This is just gorgeous views and food. I want to eat the anime. 10 on 10.
10
Still
out of
hungry.
10. Wow. Okay. That is high praise. Well, all right. This should be interesting. For me, if you enjoy watching a relaxing slice of life about high school girls enjoying their club activities, then this is the show for you. I give it an 8 out of 10.
Really?
Yes. I mean, if this is on...
I had no idea what I was going to rate it because I like the show. I have some of the books. I think I showed that in a previous episode.
Yeah, I think when we did the end of the year, you showed that you had them. Pretty much no show for me is going to probably get past an 8 out of 10 unless it also delves into something super emotional. This is just a super lighthearted show. So it's kind of like capped out as high as it can go without like making commentary or having something deep to it. With that being said, for those who have not watched it in a while, Rin Shima is enjoying her camping trip when the lost Nadeshiko Kagemura, I did not pronounce that right, whatever, I'm not Japanese, but she appears. Nadeshiko, scared to take the trip. What?
Nadeshiko.
There we go. I cannot pronounce anything once again. With Nadeshiko scared to take the trip back home at night, she takes refuge with Rin. The two enjoy the night conversing. Nadeshiko's sister picks her up after she remembers her sister's phone number. Due to the encounter, she joins the outdoor activities club at school. She then later finds out that Rin and her are attending the same school. And in essence, the rest of it is her going on camping trips with the outdoor activities group. And them trying to get Rin to join, and eventually she does join. So, doesn't join the club though.
Yes, she just joins in.
Yeah, she just joins in. Same with the other girl who refuses to join.
Saito, I think.
Yeah, because according to her, she can't give up her going straight home club activities yet.
Yeah, you can tell from her interactions that she's very lazy.
Not just lazy. She just wants to to hang out with her dog.
Yeah, and also apparently is rich.
Really? I mean, I guess that makes sense because, well,
on a whim, she and her dad bought a $400 sleeping bag.
Yeah, but the same was it? Was it 400? It was, yeah, it was a lot.
It was 450, 4,500 yen.
45,000 yen, wasn't it?
Yeah, 45. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, $450-ish. Yeah, but at the same time, it makes me wonder because for most of the kids in this, their parents are not like helping them at all with financials. Maybe the food or whatever.
Nadeshko's sister shows up like to like drive her places, but
yeah. So part of me wonders if it's not so much that she's rich as much as her parents are like fully supportive of her doing something, and maybe that's part. She doesn't do anything. She lazies around with her dog. I don't know about
you, but I don't think my parents would have bought me a $400 sleeping bag.
I can't say anything. I was in Boy Scouts.
Yeah,
I went on like multi-$100 trips. So yeah,
my parents made me buy my own track shoes.
Wow, that sucks. Those are expensive. I had throwing shoes. They're expensive.
Yeah, so did I.
With that being said, yeah, so Yuru Camp, it's just a lighthearted, it's a lighthearted food show that has camping in it.
I would say it's a lighthearted camping show that has a lot of good food in it.
They're almost equal is the funny part. Like they're straight up almost equal in this. I mean, other than like them talking about camping all the time, but like they talk equally. Them camping equally is the camping and the food.
Yeah.
Which it's the food looks good. A lot of the food. I mean,
I thought you were gonna come at me with like, so I stole a bunch of recipes.
No, other than I am tempted to try to do hot pot today because they do hot pot all the time and it looks delicious. It looks so good. But no.
Are you not gonna steal Yamada girl's Hotu?
Oh,
which I don't know that. I don't know what that is.
It looked like hot pot to me. It's probably some regional variation of.
Yeah, probably with a certain type of seasoning. I'd have to look it up.
But it had noodles in it, so I'm guessing that's one of the differentiations. Is it almost seemed like it was a hot pot with noodles. So I could look it up, but it just looked good. I wasn't. Normally, I probably would look up like what makes it what it is, but either way. But yeah, it's a lighthearted, fun show. You liked it. I liked it. I have a feeling a lot of this is going to be talking about the comedy and the camping aspect of it, because the comedy in this is, I'm trying to think the best way to explain it. It's the type, I feel like it's the type of comedy that you have with your close friends, where it's little references, little like characters.
And you make fun of your friends and call them a happy dog as they run around like a maniac. Yeah. But it's not like insulting. It's just like jokey. Yeah. Which I don't see a lot in anime. You don't see a lot of like ragging on your friends.
You don't. And on top of that, you don't see such such consistency to it. Like a good example was the whole thing of Nadeshko's a dog that comes up multiple times, but then there's her doing the country bumpkin grandma like
bit. Country grandma
that comes up multiple times. It's not like a one time aha, it'd be funny if she made this joke. Like it comes up multiple times cleverly, but she's so much fun. We offhand commented on her sister already. You did.
Yes.
Is she available?
I made the same notification note like Nadeshko's sister's cool.
She's too nice. She is too good for her. She is way too nice of a sister. Just on her whim.
Too nice to be single.
Yeah, on a whim, her sister's like, "Hey, can you take me to this campground?" She's like, "Yeah, whatever." And they comment that she likes driving. But it's not just that she took her there. It's she took her there, went to hang out with her friends that she planned to do, and then just comes back and just camps out in the car. because her
Yeah.
sister's there and like needs to camp out in the car as
Yeah.
well.
The effort that it takes to camp out in a car is a lot of mental energy. I've
Eh,
done it before. It's not pleasant.
Especially when, it's like November. It's,
Right.
40 degrees Fahrenheit out like during the day. I would imagine at night it probably got colder. Yeah, to
Yeah.
to camp out in a car is not comfortable, and especially when it's cold. And then, oh yeah, just the amount of times that she just randomly will drive her places. Um, in the second season, she just like gets her a job, like helps her find a job. It's like
Hmm.
she's just too good for her. Just
Yeah.
way too nice. And she's also just cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
totally wish I could find someone like that. She's
We'd
awesome.
have to be cool to her.
I'm not cool enough. No. That also involves realizing that there's a world outside of my office, and
Right.
there isn't. I do want to talk about how interesting it is that doing a show like this or a story like this about camping is, uh, I'm sure, not super unique. This is probably one of the ones that did it the best slash most popular. But it's shocking that they decided to do it at like the cold season, like fall, winter. It's an
Right.
it's a very
It,
interesting perspective.
I didn't do much camping. I assume you did, and you apparently have a 0 degree sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So, uh, is winter camping very common?
I would say no. If they're so people who are, which they kind of show here, people who are fairly, I don't know, I want to use the term diehard, but people who camp a lot as their hobby, winter camping is not a problem at all. They do mention in here that it is a huge overhead. The amount of equipment and expense to camp, like in the winter during, say, the summer, is ridiculous. Like I've gone camping in the summer where you don't have a tent. Like you literally get in your sleeping bag and you roll yourself up like a burrito in a tarp, and that is
Yes.
how you camp. You just use the tarp to stop the dew, that drops when the temperature drops from getting like all over your sleeping bag and getting you wet.
Gotcha.
That's it. Like, but in the winter, you do that, you're dead. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I
Well,
did find
bare
it.
minimum, you can't sleep because it's too cold and you have to stay awake all day.
Yeah, I did a lot of camping personally in the winter. Like as part of Boy Scouts and people who camp a lot, you do polar bear camps. So you actually go out, and camp in the snow in the middle of winter. Um, they're interesting. You do spend most of your time just in your tent, bundled up, or in front of a fire, bundled up.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say overall, it's not that popular. So I did find it interesting that they put a spotlight on it, and I think maybe that's partly why this one was so successful, is because it also showed a side of camping that a lot of people probably don't know, um, and allowed them to play on that a bit, as well as just obviously the beautiful scenery that you can animate. Uh,
Yeah. I I'm I'm pretty sure somebody has had an interview with the author and he said like, yeah, I wanted to just draw scenery, but that wasn't financially viable, so I made a manga. And it from the images in the manga, he should just draw scenery.
yeah, yeah. Some of the I'm assuming that a lot of the animated like scenery was
The-
just relevant.
All of the animated scenery that you see that I could tell is shot for shot from the manga that he's done, and
Yeah.
they just colored it.
Oh, it was so nice. Like the various uh, scenic locations that they end up at, where they're looking out over whether it be Mount Fuji and a lake, or looking out over a city at night. Yeah, they were all gorgeous scenes, and it almost did seem like this was a vehicle for that.
Mhm.
And it also is the part that when I was watching it, I actually was slightly sad because I feel like a hobby like camping is dying, like just in general right now. Because I mean,
I mean,
I haven't gone in like a decade.
that might be a relation to our hobbies of not leaving the house,
It
but
possibly is. Uh,
also like you kind of have to go with people. I think. You, I don't know about you. I'm not really the idea. I couldn't go solo camping.
You're not a Rin? You're not a
No,
solo camper?
no.
Uh,
You have to convince me super hard to go solo camping
yeah,
and
it's
provide all of the equipment.
oh man, the expense when you don't have all the equipment. Like nowadays, I don't have most of my equipment. I'd have to buy so much to properly go back out, especially for winter
In,
camping.
yeah, in midwinter, it snowed recently, and
Yeah, it's freaking it's snowing in March. Oh, it's probably gonna snow in April. It's done it most years, at least once.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but I think part of it is our connected society too. Is I feel like a lot of people nowadays feel like they can't step away from electronics enough to do
Hmm.
something like camping. They want to know what's that new YouTube video that came up, or the next big thing, or the next TikToker. And you can do some of that while camping. You can sit there on your phone. It kind of defeats the purpose a bunch, and I think people realize that. And
Yeah, and then your phone dies because there's no electricity out there, maybe.
they would just go to their car and idle their car, ruining the environment to charge up their phone that little bit extra,
Yeah, right.
or just portable power banks or whatever. But yeah, it just saddened me a little bit because I feel like that hobby. I don't think a hobby's dead, but I'm sure it has retracted a bit,
Hmm.
and not as big as it was. Um, I also grew up in the country though, so I probably it was a bigger thing for us, I'm sure, than people who grew up in the city. So
I
yeah,
mean, I have friends who were the type who go camping, but they were also on Boy Scouts.
as someone who camped a lot, I was a little confused about. First off, you said you didn't really camp at all. Do you do camping like at all? At all?
I don't. I've gone camping once. It was after I was maybe after I was maybe 20, and it rained for 5 days straight while we were there.
Oh, yeah. Rain and camping is not a fun combination. I'd
Yeah.
rather do winter camping than camp in
I
rain.
think I would too,
Yeah.
considering it was not pleasant.
But yeah. So one of the first things that we see Rin almost right away, we see Rin talking about is that she's hesitant to make a fire. Like she says they're a hassle. I will say
And
there's
it smells like smoke and it, like gets in your face and it dries out your face. I'm like, those are all the things I like about having a
yeah,
fire.
that's why I was like, okay, I'll give her a couple of them. I used to have one of my like track and field sweaters from back when I was in track and field. I used to have one of those that actually did have a perfectly circle hole. I think it was on my left shoulder blade. Like there was a perfect circle hole in it. That was from a campfire. It had
Oh,
burned a hole in it. Do you know the amount of people that thought I like put out a cigarette on my sweater? Because it was that perfect size and perfect
oh
circular
man.
hole. Um, but she complained about it putting holes in your clothing. I was like, okay, I'll give you that. That's the only time I've ever had a hole in a piece of clothing due to a fire. Was that one piece of clothing with that one hole? But I was like, okay, I'll give you that. They can put holes in things.
Never had, I mean, I've done a bunch of bonfires, but I've never had a hole in my clothes.
Yeah, it's so rare. So when I mean, I'll give it to her. It happens, but it is rare. But yeah, when she talks about the smoke smell, and then uh, the sister for Nadeshko mentions that she smells like smoke when she's driving her home. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that smell. Campfire smoke, to be particular, because
Yeah,
obviously
campfire smoke. Like
different smoke.
obviously cigarette smoke is not
Yeah.
for me pleasant.
Now there's lots of different smells for smoke depending on the combustible, but campfire smoke in particular, I love the smell of. So things smelling like it, I have no issue with. So I was kind of sitting here like, yeah, she's complaining about fires, and she didn't complain about any of the things that I actually think are a hassle, like maintaining them and like sitting there constantly keeping them fueled, like trying to move stuff around, shuffle, like the actual maintaining of a fire. I find
Mhm.
tricky, or like the annoyance of going and getting camp or going and getting wood or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, all the stuff she mentioned, I have no issues with. So it's kind of like, okay, it's a little interesting, but
Mhm.
all right. When she was out, I believe it said that it was, if I remember right, 5 Celsius, which is like 41 degrees.
Yeah, and the whole time there's like notes to the, oh, it's real cold, and like it'll cut to a sign that says 9C, and I'm like, you guys haven't had winter.
It's not even freezing.
It's
Like,
not even zero, like 0C. I don't know what it is. I don't know what zero is in Celsius, but
what's 0
that's where
Fahrenheit?
I suspect cold to start.
You talk about 0 Fahrenheit's what you expect?
0 Fahrenheit and Celsius.
Um, I don't remember. It's got to be around like -16 or something like that. It's got to be somewhere close to that. That is pretty cool. But no, yeah, when they were showing that, I'm like, this has to be an example of like what is cold or hot to you is irrelevant to someone else because you're like your region and what you're used to dictates it. And
Hmm.
humidity plays a huge part. That's one of the reasons that I will never argue against a summer in Japan.
Oh,
Like it
yeah,
gets bad
those
here,
are
but
nightmarishly humid.
they're so humid over there. It's like I don't care. I know over here it gets over 100. It might not in Japan, but they have so much humidity. You win. Yours are worse.
Hmm.
Um, so it must be something. It must be similar to that, where for them that must be just really cold. Like it just must be what not. They must be used to that being there cold. But yeah, here I'm going. It's not below freezing. That's not cold. It
Yeah,
might be chilly.
yeah.
It's not.
I wouldn't camp in shorts, but I could walk outside for an hour or something in shorts. Hit at 40.
Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't, but I could pretty easily. I used to be a shorts almost year round person. Nowadays, I can't. But
Yeah, I could go out, and when I was in high school, I could go out and shovel snow in shorts,
oh
but
yeah,
I'm not.
in high school I easily could. Ever since I had put on the weight and then lost the weight, no, that would not fly. I would be way
Yeah,
too cold. Um, but
you need
equipment,
that padding.
yeah, and being used to having all that extra padding, that equipment plays a large part in that, which is why I did find it interesting to see what they decided to do for equipment. Like it shocked me that it took them till what their second trip for them to introduce the idea of a ground pad or like even ground
Yeah, you're
tarps.
just sleeping on dirt and rocks
It's like okay,
almost directly.
but they're sitting there talking about oh like we need to get a ground tarp, ground sheet, ground they call them different things, but something to put under your tent. And they're sitting there like oh yeah, it was a pain to clean the bottom of the tent because like we didn't have
Hmm.
that. And I'm going I remember one of the big reasons for it is to also act as a thermal barrier. Like it's another layer between the ground and you, and they just
Yeah, in midwinter
yeah, and they
for
just didn't
them.
even talk about that at all. No, they later talk about it when they're talking about the ground pads to lay on, but I think that might have been in season two. I don't remember. That might have been in season two that they mentioned that.
No, they went to Caribou and bought like real cheap sleeping pads, and then
That's right. Okay, yeah, that was that was before the final trip, wasn't it?
yeah, the Christmas camp.
Yeah, before the Christmas trip. No, that also, man, it took me back to Boy Scouts so much. Like we had between all of us, we had like every version they were talking about. Like I've had the super cheap, like almost like packing foam style, which is even cheaper than the ones they bought. The ones they bought were like the foiled, like cheap foam ones. I had one that was like straight up like a packing foam, like it's that cheap, like a few bucks. So we had people who had the like inflatable ones that you like unroll and you literally just twist the valve and it sucks the air into it, like it inflates
Wow.
itself. It's like, oh man, they're so nice. And yeah, that's the ones they were talking about. They're like, yeah, they're the best of every world. They cost an arm and a leg, but man, are they good. Uh, and nowadays you have people who just take like the blow up mattresses.
Yeah,
Like people who just buy tents that like fit like a queen sized blow up mattress.
that's too much.
I mean, I got to give them props. Like, other than the power to inflate it, which I think you could probably get battery powered inflators. I'm sure. Like that, it would be like pretty compact and kind of smart.
Yeah.
Um, does make me wonder if they should do a season of this where they do a backpacking trip.
Hmm. I think that would just probably be a different manga slash anime.
It could be, but I almost think it would be an interesting
Hiking camp.
but it would be an interesting, I think, twist for another season to
Mm.
add a bit more uniqueness to it. Is like they end up planning a backpacking trip. I think the only person who would be ready for it is you know, Nadishko, because she can
The
apparently hike.
energy.
Yeah, she could hike up like a steep, you know, steep road with a backpack full of gear.
Yeah, I don't think Aki could survive like a hiking trip.
Probably not. She probably couldn't at all. And then you'd have the people who just wouldn't want to go on it. Because what was Enna
Yeah,
Saitu? Like she just
yes,
wouldn't do it. I
right.
think. Like
No,
no.
that's too much work.
Yeah,
And somebody would, uh, the Chihuahua would not want to deal with it.
yeah, she would totally just be the one to drive up there and be like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. Okay, another thing. Those of you who maybe know more about Japan and can let me know, is everyone crazy in Japan and just drives around motorcycles and mopeds in the middle of winter? Because
Oh my God.
the amount of people that were doing it, not even just, uh,
Yeah, Rin and her grandpa.
yeah, Rin, her grandpa, but we even see other people. Um, the friend, I can't think of her name actually now. Uh, but the friend
Oh,
of Nadishko,
yeah,
when she's visiting that area, that might have been in season two, but
it was.
she's driving one, like a moped in the middle of winter. It's like, is this just a thing? Everyone complains
Yeah,
about how cold it is, and then just drives a
yeah.
moped around. What? What's the deal? Let me know. Is this common? Over here, I don't know anyone who drives like a motorcycle or moped, or even
Yeah.
I've
The
seen
the
some.
people I know who have motorcycles, there's like as soon as it hits like 60 or 70, they're out there on the motorcycle. But like anything below that, they're like, no way.
Yeah, which you do see that wonderful trend of like people will put it away quicker in fall than people will like they'll bring it out earlier in spring. And I think it's that like what you're used to. Like you get so used to the
Right.
cold
Yeah.
in winter that it hits 50s and you're like, yeah, it's super warm out, and it's like you were bundling up.
Raring to go. I haven't had the motorcycle out for 3 months,
Yeah,
5 months, something like that.
you were bundling up when it got below 60 last time or in
Yep.
fall. No, it's just I thought it was crazy that they're sitting there talking about how like die hard they are camping when it's this cold, and it's like riding a bike is more die hard than the camping part. Like you are literally creating wind to cold, like chill yourself versus just being in the cold.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it. It just like that's just crazy. That's absolutely insane. Um, I did find it interesting when they were talking about the different types of tents. The tent that Rin has, I in Boy Scouts used to use that style all the time, the A-frame style.
Hmm.
Ours didn't have the cool little, I forget what they're called, wind block that like sticks out the front. It has that like piece on the rain guard that like sticks out.
Yeah.
But that style, when she was like sitting there trying to put up that style, I was like, oh, so many memories of like hurting myself, like the band, because you would have a rubber like the you have the plastic piece that the rods go in, one on each side that creates the A, and typically that plastic piece is attached to the tent through an elastic band, and that elastic band you pull up and around the plastic piece, and that's what like tensions the tent. The amount of times that would just be so tight that you'd be sitting there like trying to force it around it and like jamming your knuckles into that plastic piece. It was it was so many times of hurting myself. Almost had PTSD at times when I was looking at that tent. Um, but
Flashbacks.
they're nice tents though. Uh, let's step back a bit from the show itself. How good is that OP? That
Oh,
opening
it's
piece?
both of them. Both of them are so good.
Man, it's It's so well done. I feel like it gets the feel of the show pretty well as far as animation and all that, and then the song uh, fits the feel pretty well. The thing that I find so interesting about it is when I listen to the season one intro, I get some like Jackson 5 ABCs feels.
Mm, I
That
could see that.
just that the beat and the rhythm behind it, especially at the very end, it has that feel to it with the guitar rhythm and everything, piano. I really gives that vibes, which really
Hmm.
has that fun, upbeat feel to it. I love it so much. It's so good. And on top of that, the cold open that we get as well in this show, at the very beginning, where it's showing, like pointing at the fire, and you hear the girls talking and just like enjoying their camping and talking back and forth. And then it shoots up and like looks at the camera, looks at each of the girls one by one, and they react to the camera as if it's like a friend just looking at them,
Yeah.
which is really cool. You get a feel for each of their personalities by like the way they smile at the camera or whatever. And it's like, okay, this is an interesting idea that it's almost like you're a person who's in this group. And then when they're like, yeah, let's take a group photo, and Nadishko just picks up the camera as if it's a camera sitting there. And they
Right.
like,
They took it from you.
yeah, it's like, oh, that's such a fun feel for a cold open for a show.
Hmm.
Um, and it really sets the tone kind of for the feel of everything. And you get, like I said, an idea of each of the characters. And then it's fun as you're watching the show. Like when she's running past the two that were originally in the group, like you're like, you already know that, oh, those two are, the two that she's going to eventually end up camping with or whatever. So it's kind of fun as you're watching the show to kind of pick up on the different characters. Um, so just really good setup.
Yeah. Good intro design.
We kind of talked about the comedy a bit already, but man, is the comedy in this ridiculous. One of the first ones we hear, like fun jokes, is when Rin was cutting up the firewood and she's like, I'll turn you into rust on my blade. It's like, what the?
The weird things you think about, like, and maybe say out loud to yourself by yourself and don't
Yeah.
want anyone to know.
It's like,
Talking to
yep.
the wood.
It's like just talking to the firewood before you chop it up.
In the same vein, the little talking other things, the pine cones that say
Yeah.
hello.
Like the pine cones say hello, and there's multiple things that they have
Yeah.
like talking and responding, and they're well done.
It's yeah. It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah. It's I just love how they don't overdo it either. Like you kind of get to that point where you forget that it's even a ploy in the
Yeah,
show.
they'll go a couple of episodes without touching it for a bit, and then
Yeah.
something will do it.
Um Obviously the whole secret society blanket, that was a good one. Just
Yeah,
out of nowhere, and then they, I think, what, do that three times. She initially
yeah,
does it, then she gets Rin in on it, and then at the end they get the whole group in on it, and it's like, oh, it's
right.
growing, um which is great. So I want to think about that for a second, though. As far as I know, Nadeshko provided all the blankets. It's like she, in essence, bought each one of them their blanket. She complains about money all the time.
The problem of spending all your money on your friends, I guess. Alternatively, people had their own blankets, and just she just convinced everybody to, like, here's
well,
here's how you wrap the blanket around yourself.
we know that she bought Rins, if I remember right, or brought it. I guess she could just be bringing them from home, maybe, and not like buying them for them to keep. Maybe
Yeah,
she's just bringing them from home. But yeah, it's just like it's
I
kind of
mean,
ridiculous.
as country grandma Nazeshko, she probably knows how to sew, or like her grandmother is makes blankets or something. She just has a bunch of them.
Yeah, it's possible. With that, the other one I found hilarious for comedy was this idea of what I'm assuming was a bear, bear chan. Like they had that drawing on the in the club room, and then later
Yeah, just the bear jawed on the. And
it's like holding
everybody
meat
is like,
sticks.
right.
Um, but
Nobody
like
knows what it is.
yeah, but later when they're talking about the different sleeping bags, and they mentioned the which I'd actually didn't even knew existed before this, the like humanoid shaped ones that like have
Mm-hmm.
legs or whatever, and they talk about the whole moon landing.
Astronaut.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the astronaut.
yeah, the astronaut thing, and then the flags, the Bear Chan like image too. Like just it's nice little lighthearted humor. The other great one is when Rin is exploring the one campsite and stumbles across the two dogs. And first off, I find it hilarious that like pretty much every dog in here is a Shibu. Like there's a few
That's the
others.
stereotype
Yeah.
in Japan. If you're gonna have an anime, all the dogs are sheep.
Yeah, they did break apart from it. The Chihuahua. Well, with that being said, her Chihuahua looks like a Shibu.
It does.
I think it's just a Shibu, and they're saying it's a Chihuahua. Maybe that's a translation issue. That would be interesting.
No, because I think she says Chihuahua.
Yeah, and the name looks uh is a play on it too, as far as I know. Anyway,
Yeah.
but she finds the two dogs, and then they run at her to because they're excited, and the first
Hmm.
one hits the end of the leash, and she's like, "Ha ha!" The second one then just gut checks her. It's like, oh, such a good setup, and then like, setup and
Yeah.
twist. It's like, oh, they're gonna end it dead end their leash. You even think it when they're running at her. You're like, oh, she's not moving. They're gonna dead end the leash. The first one does. Second one just gut checks her. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
all right, nice.
I've been
Um,
eaten by dogs.
that's that was the other thing
Oh,
that I found fascinating is the way they did like messaging. Like
yes.
it's a large part of the show.
Hmm.
Um,
I was going to bring that up because all of the messaging feels like the type of messaging you'd send to your friends, and it maintains the humor of the show.
Yeah, and it gives you a lot about the characters themselves. Like they really don't delve into any sort of character development, any sort of real progress for the most part. It's very lighthearted, but even though they don't, you get so much about the character, the type of characters these characters are, because of the texting and all that. We're getting constant interaction with characters that are not part of the moment because we get to see the interaction that they're having. So Rin might be a solo camper, but while she's out there, she's constantly shooting pictures or comments to friends. And that means we get like Ina constantly involved in episodes, even though she might not physically be there. So we learn
Right.
a lot about her, despite the fact she's not a
And her
real big,
sense of humor.
yeah, despite the fact she's not a real big part until episode 11. Like she's a side character, but she's practically a main character because of all the texts.
And yeah, and you can tell her personality of being somebody who not starts things, but like pushes people.
Oh yeah, she definitely gets in people's like she gets in people's business, like
Yes.
very much so. Um,
She's very nosy. She just doesn't want to really be involved.
yeah, she doesn't want to do anything personally, but she will get other people to do stuff. And that first interaction's a great example of that, where she's like, "Hey, where are you camping at?" "Oh, I'm at this campsite," and then she just shoots a text to
Nadeshko.
yeah, Nadeshko. And it's like, "Oh, by the way, I think she's camping here right now," and like she
Yeah.
doesn't have to say anything about like, "Hey, Ren's at this campsite," and she knows that she's then gonna run there to join her.
Yeah.
Their club room, I swear to God, is a closet, and they
Yeah,
kind of
it
say
really
that it
is.
is.
Yeah.
It's like it's for first off, if your club room is that small, why do they have all those bookshelves? And why don't they stack them?
I assume they're attached to the wall.
It must be. They're like waist height bookshelves along the entire wall. And it's
I
like,
don't know, man.
I yeah, that that room's probably 6 feet wide, maybe. It's yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like maybe five.
Uh, trying to think, those bookshelves maybe are like 22 inches deep or something like that, 30 inches deep at most. So yeah, that thing's got to be like 5 to 6 feet wide. It's tiny. It's super tiny, and
Mhm.
it's fascinating when you see them like sitting down on the floor and they're like uh almost
Knee
like
to
in
knee wall and bookshelf.
yeah, it's like back against the wall and like toes touching the bookshelf as you're practically in the fetal position.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and it is great how they even make that joke of like, oh, does it really matter that we have a small club room where the outdoor activities club, like we do everything outdoors, and then they're just
And
out.
then they immediately start complaining about the size of the club.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. I did find it hilarious how they even continue the ploy of like she chooses a random number of like, oh, if we have 4 members, we can totally get a bigger like club room, and it's like she just pulls this number out of her butt, but they constantly throughout the joke make like, oh, we just need one more member, and it's like, till what? You go to the staff office and they tell you no, there's no rooms available.
Well, so this could just be conjecture from me watching a lot of anime. It is always like, oh, we're gonna lose our club unless we have 4 total members, and we only have 3. So they get the new kid to join.
Yeah, a big part of that I think is um, from that trope that I've seen. It's usually that you need so many to officially be a club, but
Right.
they do in here seem to be an official club. Like the staff, they have a staff
That
member that
could
they've
go
talked
along
to.
with it being like a country-ish town rather than like a city.
Okay, maybe
Like it's not. This isn't Tokyo.
true. Maybe they just kind of let them do whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, you're a club. What?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just hilarious that they keep going along with that idea, and it's even funnier when they just need one more technically because they think they need 4. They have 3, and the two
Yeah.
people who totally would fit with the club are both like, no. Like the one's like, nope.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. One's I don't want to deal with other people on a consistent basis, and the other one's like I'm too lazy.
Yeah, it's like I want to go home and just lazy around and play with my dog. Um, oh, man, that dog is does have quite a personality. Um,
Yes.
uh, I did find,
Immediately hides under Chuggy Sensei.
yeah, well, it's under the blanket. Got to
Yeah.
bundle up nice and warm under the blanket. The freaking tent that she buys her dog, like
Yeah, yeah, she dying like I'm $100 tent or something.
it was $100 tent. Did that technically? Does that one technically get into season 2? I'm trying to
Yes.
remember. Yeah, but it's either way. Like once again, you can't really
It was
spoil
just for the
anything.
picture as well.
Yeah. So,
It's not a good tent to like the dog isn't gonna stay in the tent at night.
no, because it can't. Because it would straight up die. Like Chihuahuas can't be in that cold of weather for an extended
Yeah.
period of time. Um, but yeah, the fact that it's like this tent is Rin's even like this tent is better than most like human tents, like cheap human tents. Like
Hmm.
it's just built way better. Now part of that's obviously size, quality, yeah, blah blah blah. But then the fact that yeah, her response back is, "Don't you want to see him in this tent?" It's like my face betrays me.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, just for a picture. Well, I mean, I'm sure she's that tent's so small, she'll probably just have it set up in her room all the time for him to hang out in or
Yeah.
whatever. But dog people, it's like I've liked some of my pets in the past. I still don't understand people who do that, like buy $100 tent for their dog just cause, like
But
randomly.
you also didn't grow up rich, so
Yeah, I do wish I knew. Like that purchase to me is more of a like she must be rich, but she has a job if I remember right. Like she bought that with the temp job money. It's
mm.
like she actually bought that with money she earned, versus like the sleeping bag or whatever. But
I guess if your hobbies are sleeping and playing with your dog, you don't really have a lot of other expenses.
Yeah, she probably doesn't
So,
have a lot of overhead. Uh,
so I guess if you want to spend your money on your dog and whatever camping supplies you get roped into,
that
to
that is another example of the control they have over the humor of this. Is multiple times she had mentioned, "Oh, I'm thinking about buying a tent with my money from my job." And everyone's
yeah.
just like, "Oh, she wants to buy a tent 'cause now she's into camping." And then it turns out it's a dog tent. And you're just sitting there going, "We should have known. We should. Why did we think she was going to buy an actual tent?" It's like, "Oh, I thought you wanted a tent for camping. What are you going to do now?" It's like, just use your guys' tent. Like,
Right.
sleep with you guys. Oh man. Oh, the other. Well, we've kind of gotten into a bit of hit picks when we get into the comedy because this comedy is so good.
You
Um,
hit picks when you said food in like the first 5 minutes
yeah,
because I wrote "God, I'm hungry" 3 times on my notes.
yeah, it looks so good. I laughed my butt off when they were trying to figure out how to use a summer sleeping bag in winter, and their solution is
It's
to
just wrapped up into a box and then the cardboard and just like I'm gonna ship them.
yeah, the solution to using a summer sleeping bag in winter is to get in a summer sleeping bag and then have your buddies wrap you up to ship you. Yeah. It's like, oh, let's wrap aluminum foil around them. Nah, I don't think it really made a difference. Oh, let's put bubble wrap around them because it says that an air barrier is good for insulation. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that worked really well. That's the thing is they get to this point, it's like, oh, we solved it. Like, this is working great. And then out of nowhere, well, what if we throw cardboard on top? And they just freaking pack her up in a couple boxes. It's like,
Yeah. And Nadeshko's sprinting back to the school to bring it back.
yeah, another example of them being like, she's a dog. Because yeah, every time it's like, maybe
Fetch.
this would help. Ah, and she runs off to like try to find whatever the item is. It's
And
like,
surprisingly, all of those things were available.
I, that's with that being said, whenever she came back, she explained where she found it, and they all
Hmm.
made sense. Because like when they sit there and they're like, oh, aluminum foil, my brain started going, where's she gonna
Cooking
get
club.
aluminum foil in a school? Like, maybe the cafeteria, but most cafeterias aren't going to use aluminum foil. Um, a lot of them use like containers with lids and whatever. But anyway, so you're like, okay, maybe the cafeteria. And then she comes back. Oh, the science club let me borrow it. And then I'm like, I should have known that. We used aluminum foil all the time in science class. And then
Hmm.
like goes to get the bubble wrap. Yeah, the people in the office like let me have some. Of course. And then the boxes. I actually forget where she said she got the boxes, but
I don't. Yeah, I didn't write that down.
that
I
one's yeah,
I
that
don't.
would be
But I
easier.
mean, boxes are easier than
Yeah.
I would say bubble wrap.
Yeah, I would say so too. And on top of that, if the office has bubble wrap, it probably have boxes because they're potentially
I want to
shipping
point
stuff.
out that the entire time that Nedish goes out finding these things, Aki's just laying on the bench.
You would think freezing to death. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. Oh, the actually we forgot to mention the first step, which was the whole I'm cold from the shoulders up. So it's like they put the hat and the scarf and all that on her.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like, oh yeah. Um, oh man, so hilarious. Yeah, I'd put down the talking pine cones as a great net. Oh, the other one I found hilarious was when they were like, oh, wouldn't it be great if there was a tent with a heater built in? And first off, my response was that exists, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and then they're sitting there like stepping. Oh yeah, it'd be great if it had a heater and the heater was here and it was like this type of heater, and then we put a solid roof on it, and then by the end they're like, that's just a kotatsu. It's like, oh, so you're just gonna have a kotatsu as a tent?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna argue against this. I would totally
Yeah.
buy one. Um, man, that's the weeb part of me coming out that like it's like I want to
Yeah.
try one. I want to try kotatsu. It just
I appreciate it more as the slapsticky kind of humor to that of
yeah.
like uh what is that, the two-man, somebody tells a joke and then somebody else goes but it's the that's just this.
Yeah. I don't know the name for it, but yeah, it's so well done, so well done. Oh, one of the things I found interesting, and I don't know if this is me, just I haven't watched a show in a while that had driving in it, but I actually had a moment of like, oh duh, when her sister picks her up in like the first episode, and the sister leans out the right side of the car. It like stopped me for a second. And I'm like, wait,
Yeah, the driving on the other side of
yeah, they're one of the like
the
four
vehicle.
major countries that drive on the left side of the road. I was like, oh, I always forget this. It made me stop for a moment and be like, okay, so have I just not watched an anime in a while that had driving that you saw which side they were on, or is there's a lot of anime that just animates it the other way?
I don't know.
I don't know. It kind of threw me off, but it made me stop for a second and be like, oh yeah, they drive on the other side of the road. Um, that was great though when the sister shows up and like they don't show her hitting Nadishko, but like they show the big bump on the head and her being like, it hurts, and then just
Well, I
like
mean,
pick.
she throws her into the car and
Yeah.
like kicks her in.
Once again, love the sister.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Um,
Um,
the freaking response she has when to the food, like when Aiko or whatever makes the food, and she's like, she's angry, like thinking that maybe she realized that she doesn't actually know how to cook that dish or whatever,
mhm.
or like she's faking it, and no, she's just so obsessed with how good the food is that she looks pissed off. It's like, give me the recipe.
Yeah.
Uh, I she's waifu.
The-
This sister's the waifu.
Meanwhile, the rest of her family is just Nadeshiko.
Yeah, when did they commented somewhere? Once again, I'm having a hard time remembering if this is season one or season two. They commented somewhere that the dad is why she is the way she is. I think it was in season two, where like the dad's obsessed with food, and then like that's
Mm,
how she became obsessed with food. I think it was in season two because they mentioned in season two why she, uh, like why she is the way she is with food and how she has so much energy. Where it's like, yeah, she when she was younger was fat or chubby.
yeah, that
Um,
was season two.
yeah, until the sister literally made her ride her bike like laps around a giant lake nonstop to lose weight.
Mm.
It was like, okay, once again, love the sister even more now. To be like, okay, you're
Just some
no,
tough love. Here,
yeah,
lose some weight. Um,
but she just likes
along
to
with
drive.
the
So,
yeah, along with the driving. In the season two, well, the professor or the advisor, um, is driving them like all in the car, and they're like a real dramatic shots of like driving around a mountain, but all the speed is at like 30.
oh yeah, yeah. I guess I didn't even
Real,
pick up on that, huh?
yeah, it's like real dramatic, like acceleration and stuff, but nah, speed limit's like 35.
Yeah, and with how much turning she would have been doing, you're not going to get up to speed anyway. Like it's
And you
giant.
don't want to.
Yeah,
Mountaintop or hill mountain driving is terrifying.
yeah. Uh, back to Boy Scouts for a second. One of the craziest memories I have with driving is when we were going whitewater rafting down in like New River. Shout out to people who know about New River and all that. Um, you have to go down into the canyon, like to where the river's at, for your actual like to get on the river to do whitewater. So a lot of people you're going down there in like groups. So you're taking buses. So the path down there has this one, in essence, 180, like a turnaround, and you barely. So the buses barely fit down this road to begin with. You've got maybe a foot on each side of the bus for the trees. When you go to do this turnaround, it does open up a bit, but most of the buses, like you're sitting there waiting for the buses because they come down and they have to like do a 3 point turn, kind of like they have to start the turn, back up, and then like swing around this 180 turn because it's so tight. Both the
Oh,
times we went down there, we had the same bus driver. Shout out to that guy. I doubt you'll see this, but he was awesome. Um, every time freaking we'd be going down there, you're like sitting there, oh man, this is a tight, like very tight. There's like no room going down this path. Like you're seeing these buses like trying to Austin Powers their way around this turn. And I remember the second time we went down, we already knew this, but like you're seeing them in like, these guys are stupid. Like whatever. Gets to our turn. Dude just whips around this turn. Like just picks up speed. Just one turn whips the bus around and does this 180 to go down and like zag the other way. Terrifying. Like there's no room on either side of this thing, and the dude just like powers his way down and whips it around. It's like, oh my god. It's like, how the heck we never ended up in the trees or something. I don't know. That guy is just, he was a pro. He was probably doing this every day for, you know, the entire summer or whatever. But
right, yeah, he
it was
worked his way up to that.
Yeah, it was just hilarious to watch every time. And it's like that same thing of like, it's terrifying. Like that first time we went on that trip, it's terrifying because you're seeing like how sharp a turn this is for like, you know, a giant bus to make it through there. And he's just like, nope. It's just like freaking with the sister, just drifting around turns. No, I loved the comedy and the feel of this whole show. It's so relaxing, and it almost is in that category of slice of life where, you know, there's no plot or anything, the Ayashikes or whatever that we've been talking about, but it's not, because it still seems active in what it's doing, like the way the comedy lays in and everything. It's not just a super relaxing, like it keeps you laughing, it keeps you
I'm
engaged.
pretty sure, yeah, that I still put it in that category.
Yeah, probably technically still falls in it, but to me it's not like I'm sitting there smiling, but to me it's not a relaxed smiling. It's more of a laughter, because it just keeps you engaged and keeps the humor coming at you. Either way, I absolutely love it. I did have a couple nitpicks that are not a huge deal. I don't know if you had any. Probably not.
No, let me check, because I wrote down a bunch of hits. Oh, one of the things I was going to mention was I appreciate that in the earlier episodes we've got a perspective of Rin doing her solo camping thing, and from her personality, she's a very quiet person, and like you see that later episodes when she's like eating by herself and enjoying it silently, but she enjoys the camping silently. But then you go over to the outdoors camping trip, and it is loud and boisterous, and obviously the music changes between those two.
Yeah, I do appreciate the fact that during that big trip, she's still herself, which I do appreciate, that they don't try to make her super social or anything in that social gathering. She still is kind of silent into herself, but enjoying the company. So I did appreciate it. It didn't seem like they were trying to push her character into what she's not,
right,
which was nice.
And I appreciate that they did teach actual camping tips, like in the side stuff of like, oh, here's how you set up a fire, and you should use these tools to avoid whatever, or don't put your tea directly on a fire because it'll ash the.
Okay, that one though, I think this is a Japanese thing.
It's probably a Japanese thing.
It's like with us, I would have my camping pots and like camping gear. It's like, what do I care if the bottom turns black? It's just an aesthetic thing. Like it's been sooted, but it functionally is not different. And even then you can actually clean it. It's a pain. You have to use specialized equipment or whatever. But whatever. It's my camping pot.
I'm pretty sure from the camping club's water pot, they took that from like something else, and it's just not dedicated for that until it was, because they sooted it.
Yeah. But I think it's a Japanese thing where they care so much more about what they own and their equipment than like, say, Western culture. Like it seems like they care a lot more for what they have. It must be a Japanese thing where they're like, yeah, don't don't put the stuff on the fire because it'll be sooted and turn black. But for me, I'm like, I have a dedicated cooking pot for camping. Like back when I used to do it a lot. So it's like, what do I care if it got sooted? Like, it's the only thing it's used for is for that campfire. But yeah,
Yeah.
I did appreciate the fact that not only for the camping, but for the cooking too. Like they were actually showing you how to replicate and accomplish things.
I think some of the recipes are actually in the books.
Oh wow.
Like, oh, the last page, there's a recipe. I could
Um,
probably find them and send them to you.
yeah, maybe I should do a special we should do like a special video where we actually try to make one of the dishes out of that could be interesting. Try to make some of the dishes out of these shows. Um, yeah, I appreciated that. One of the nitpicks I want to bring up. Um, once again, these are nitpicks, not a big deal. I have to preface that because it's the fact that her scooter storage container sounded like a car door. Like
Oh,
they're
this
they're
is more of an audio problem.
yeah, it was like I get it. I get it. Most people are
You would have to do your own audio work for that and like go grab a scooter and like take a mic because I can't imagine that's widely available.
well, but they would have just had to soften it. It's just too harsh, too sharp of a sound for something like
Mm.
a scooter storage system. It just seemed like she's closing something on a vehicle. What's the like closest sound we can find? And then they just stuck it in there, and
Car door.
they just
They
didn't do
didn't.
the extra work to like soften it up and not make it as harsh in the mix.
I could say that. Yeah.
I was just like, most of the audio was fine. It's just that one like actually stuck out to me because of how harsh like it was. I was like, oh, that's straight up a car door sound. Um, yeah, I also was kind of bugged that when she made her soup style pasta, Rin did, she just drank it right out of the pot. And as far as we could tell, it hadn't been sitting there like for very long. I was like,
Just burning hot pot.
yeah, I was like, that would scald the crap out of you. It's
Yeah.
like they didn't make it a point that she waited 10 minutes or something for it to cool down or whatnot.
Sure.
You just see her, and it's not like eat it out with a spoon out of it. Like she straight up puts her lips to the edge of the pot and sips the broth. I was like, ah, that would burn like hell. That would be
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. Melt your flesh.
That no one replicate that unless you let it sit until you know for sure it is more than cool enough. But
Yeah.
that
If
would
you're not
hurt.
willing to touch it with your hands, don't touch it with your lips.
Yeah, no. And it was steaming like crazy. They did animate the steam, so I was like, oof. I don't think I've ever burned myself that bad on anything. Like
No.
for me, it's usually liquids that become the issue, like trying to drink coffee way too quick.
Yeah.
Um,
Or microwaved vegetables,
yeah, yeah, microwaved veggie. Actually,
like in a
one
soup or something.
funny enough, actually, this is relevant to camping, which is interesting. One of the hottest things I've ever eaten, like temperature wise, which was not entirely on purpose, was back in Boy Scouts. One of the things that is huge in Boy Scouts is cobbler. So, like Dutch oven cobbler. I've done contests in Boy Scouts for it, for various recipes. I've created multiple recipes. Like, this is a big thing in Boy Scouts, is like you do contests for cobblers. Um, one of the cobblers that a group had come up with, like one of our friends, um, was him and a few friends came up with peanut butter peach. Delicious, by the way. Like you wouldn't quite think that the two flavors go together well. It goes together really well.
Okay.
You
I'll
add a
take
bit
your
of
word for it.
yeah, you add a bit of melted butter to the peanut butter to like thin it out to put it into like your dessert or whatever.
But I can definitely see that being burning hot.
The peach, oh my gosh, fruits hold temperature like nothing else, and I like nearly burned the inside of my mouth when I was taking a bite of it because you're sitting there and like, oh, it's cool enough, and like, you might even eat a bite or two of the like actual cakey part of the cobbler or whatever,
Right.
but those freaking peaches, like you'd sit there for half an hour and that peach would still be freaking magma hot. Like they just hold their heat like crazy. Um, Actually, that's another thing I was shocked about. It must be a Japanese thing. I didn't see a single Dutch oven. Like I think in Western culture, it's a huge camping tool is a Dutch oven, for cooking, and we didn't see a single one. We did see a cast iron pan,
Yes, we saw one cast.
Two,
Chan, two.
because the grandpa, and then she's like,
Oh
"Oh, I
yeah,
need
the
one of
grandpa.
those," and then she buys her small
Rin's
one.
cool grandpa.
That he's so cool. Um, I I totally forgot about him until he popped up during the rewatch. And how nice is he that he just sees this random girl like
Yeah,
staring
staring
at
at
him.
yeah, and goes, "You want some meat?"
Yeah, it's like just has waves her over and is like, "Yeah, you can have some of my food."
Yeah,
It's like, oh, man, such a cool guy. And then yeah, once you find out that he's the grandpa, I'm still
yeah. That
waiting.
never come. That barely comes up. It's like several episodes before you realize that it's Rin's grandpa,
Yeah,
as her mother is talking to him on the phone.
yeah, and totally, totally want to see the grandpa finally meet what's her name again, uh, Aiko or whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
Aki.
Aki, yeah. I want to see the two of them meet again and it to like connect and for her to find out that oh that was the grandpa of Rin.
Yeah,
Especially since she like idolizes Rin for some reason. I don't know why those two idolize Rin. I guess just because she's the most
the cool.
experienced.
Yeah, probably the cool solo camper.
Yeah, it's like they idolize her. Well, not so much Aoi, but yeah, she like idolizes her so much. That would just be hilarious for her to be like, "Wait, that's your grandpa?
Yeah,
That cool guy that was out
and
camping?"
then she'll have a an imagination thing pop up, and it's like cool grandma Rin making steak, like future Rin.
Oh, that would be great. I could see them doing that too. Yeah, after she puts it together and like just literally takes the scene when she met the grandpa and just puts like old woman Rin
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
And then that like sad undertone of that joke where you're like, wait, solo camping as an old woman, like where's the family? Oh.
I don't know. I would still think Rin would go out solo camping as an old woman.
Yeah, what kind of person would she I'm trying to think what kind of guy she would end up if she end up with a boyfriend she would end up with. Would it be a camper? Like I don't know if she'd want someone to like, quote unquote invade her camping
Yeah,
time. So I wonder
yeah.
if she would even end up with someone who is that into camping. Um,
Didn't seem likely.
that'd be interesting. I doubt they would ever for this story write in
No, I can't
relationships,
imagine.
but uh,
I think that's too many characters. If you introduce like relationships with one or two characters, you kind of have to start thinking about relationships with more, and then they have to be involved in other things like the camping stuff, and then you get
yeah,
more information on them. Like I don't think I think this is too much.
it is getting to a point of too much, and it's such a non-focus for the entire show that it wouldn't matter. We did get that little peek into what Nadishko's thought on them being
On
older
the
would look
future,
like. What's even funnier is I couldn't. It was almost like they animated them being like
taller.
college students.
Yeah,
Like they were just taller. But so it's
yeah, they're
like,
just
look,
taller.
they don't look older really. They're just taller. But yeah, that was amusing. And the funny part is, up until she shows up, it does seem exactly like what it would look like for them in the future, where they're like, oh, let's do another camping trip after they've not been
Hmm.
together for a while and gone their separate ways. And it does feel exactly like how it would be until they get to
You can tell
Nadishko, and
Nadeshko
it's
just
like,
comes in with a hovering tent.
well, even then, the moment they're like, yeah, she now runs a successful like
Yeah,
camping gear
yeah,
company, and you're going, her? Really? I mean, she loves camping right now and has the drive for it, but like, her, the CEO of a company?
yeah. No.
And you're like, okay, maybe, like, maybe, she quote unquote grows up, matures, maybe. And yeah, she comes in a, uh, like, rocket tent or whatever from like the intro, and you're like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
so something's definitely up. I don't think they're now like in their 60s when that technology exists, and they don't look like it. But okay,
yeah.
it was a nice little, give you that feeling of okay, what about them being older? So
Hmm.
no, yeah, I absolutely adored the show. Like I said, 8 out of 10. It would be higher if there was more to it, but it's just a good feel good. So I
And I
cannot.
gave it a 10 out of 10 because it's just a nothing feel good and it's beautiful.
Yeah, that's if we were doing ratings based off categories. That's the thing. So like kind of like what we did with Promare, where I was like, okay, here's my trigger score. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
fully understand what you're getting into, it's a 10 out of 10. I would easily do that. And I feel like that's kind of what it's turned into is you rate yours more on what they are and what they fall into. And
Yeah.
I'm like trying to keep everything on one scale. So it's like 8 out of 10,
Well,
but
I can play the goofy character
yeah.
of like, nah, everything's great, bro.
Yeah.
And you can be the serious guy.
Trying to keep it more serious. It gets difficult. That's the thing is once we've done this for longer, it's gonna get to that point where uh I'm gonna have to keep explaining myself because you're gonna have the viewers. They're like, "How could this show be? You rate this show higher than this show?" And it's like, because you can't compare them, and I kind of have to try, but you can't. It's like yes, trying to compare, what I would rate a Demon Slayer compared to what I would rate a Yuru Camp is very difficult. Um,
Right, yeah.
it's like there's gonna be shows, some isekai.
Gorgeous, great action scenes. Yuru Camp, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Oh, oh. It's gonna get tricky, and eventually, I'm sure people are gonna start poking me about how can you rate this higher than that, and it's like because I can't. It's like that's why
I'm the
it's
one picking the numbers. Screw you.
yeah. It's like some of them I'm sure I straight up just don't enjoy as much, and they'll get rated lower, and some of them is that scale I'm going with. Like I said, the highest anything is gonna get is an 8 out of 10 unless it if it starts tugging at my heartstrings because it's so well written and there's good story to it, it might end up higher than 8.
I mean, it's honestly, it sounded like this did tug at your heartstrings of causing you PTSD and making you want to go camping.
Oh, uh, the big thing with this is there's no low. I think that's why this can't get above a 10. This like pushes the feel good happiness and like just
Well,
keeps you there the whole time.
there was that I mean, it was just the one episode, but the time that Aki and I went out to go camping and it was too cold, so they're like, "Oh, they're gonna freeze," and then they immediately meet some friendly strangers.
Oh yeah, okay. No, my brain was trying to. Well, part of it's my brain's still having a hard time identifying names between all. There's so many different characters, and my brain
Mm-hmm.
hasn't fully internalized all of them. So I had
Yeah,
to like,
I wrote them down as they were introduced to like make sure. So every time I go over my notes, I see their names.
yeah, yeah. I normally have all of them listed on my notes. But yeah,
I
still having a
mean,
hard time.
why do you think I have Chuggy Sensei on my brain? I think
Chuggy,
it's
yeah.
Toba.
Oh, what'd they call her? They called her Chug what?
Chugsy.
Oh,
Yeah,
we didn't even touch that.
Chugsy.
Is that is that appropriate? Like that seems inappropriate. That she for the Christmas camp was officially their like whatever you call it, their
The club thing, and the
club advisor.
teacher is the official advisor is drinking at the camp,
Not just
at the
drink.
official school event, basically.
That's the only thing I can come up with is it's technically not an official club event. Um, but even then, even if it's not an official club event, she's an adult who is
He's the
not
only
their
adult in
parents
this. Yeah.
who starts drinking the minute they get there, in essence, and doesn't
Right.
stop. Like she's
She
wasted.
passes out within like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And oh, I do admit it was
And the first time you meet her as like that hoodie wearing drunk lady, she's like, "Here you go, kids, take this
yeah.
rum."
Here, take some rum too. But I also do find it interesting with the whole thing of them showing off food and all that. I did find it funny how she was in essence giving pairings for the food during the Christmas thing. It's
Right.
like this would go great with wine. This
And
would go
everyone was
great
just,
with rum or whatever.
and yeah, and they just kind of brush her off.
Yeah, it's like okay, thank you, show. Thank you for the food pairing recommendation. The drink pairing like recommendation. I love it. One of these days, I guess I'll try one because like I think the first one was sake, and then another one's it would go good with wine. It was because
Yeah.
the different versions of that dish that I can't think of the name of right now. Um, but yeah, no, I love it. It's great.
Sukiyaki, maybe.
That sounds right. Yes. With that, though, I think we need to just wrap it up. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, keep an eye out on social media for what we're going to do next. Let us know. Email us, animedigression@gmail.com. Tweet at us at animedigression. What do you think of Yuru Camp, Laid Back Camp? What do you want us to cover? What do you want to see us watch? We've started the trend of doing a movie now, so recommendations for movies too are more than welcome. With that, thank you all so much for listening, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.